Story 1, so I've been down here for a few minutes now. Just found this little clearing. The story I'm about to tell you from a couple of years ago is without a doubt one of the most horrifying things that has ever happened to me. It's one of those stories that makes me look back and think I'm lucky to be sitting here writing this. I say that because it wasn't until hours later that I realized just how fortunate I really was. I'll do my best to tell this story, but please go easy on me. I'm not a writer, and I always hated writing in school. I'm sharing this as a reminder that you never know who might be out there in the world with dark intentions. A few months before the incident I'm about to describe, I moved to a quiet, mostly rural area. I don't love the hustle and bustle of the city, so being in a peaceful neighborhood with not much going on was ideal for me. It didn't take long for me to get familiar with the surrounding area, especially the forests around my new neighborhood. The area I lived in was heavily wooded. There were forests and paths everywhere to hike. Practically right outside my door was a trail that led deep into the woods. I spent weeks exploring the forest and discovering new paths. One day while hiking, I found a little trail that ended up connecting to a legitimate path from a local park near my house. It's not a state park or anything like that, just some kind of local nature reserve where you can park and hike. I thought it was cool that I had my own private little path leading to that park. So every Saturday, I would wake up early and hike in the woods around my house. I'd try to find new areas I hadn't been to before. At some point during the day, I would make my way to the public park trails, head to the public restroom there, rest on the benches if I needed a break, and then hike back through the woods to get home. Whenever I found a cool new area in the woods, I would record a little video. Nothing crazy, almost like a video diary to talk about where I was and how I was feeling. These videos were just for me. I didn't post them online. It wasn't about views or anything like that. I just wanted to document my travels and one day put them all together in a video for myself. I had found some truly amazing places on some of my hikes. One time I came across this little waterfall that fell into a creek, and the water continued to flow down a hill. It felt almost dreamlike the way it looked, and this creek was just hidden in the middle of the woods. It felt like my little secret. The place I found on the day of this story was nothing special. I'd been hiking for a while and I came across this clearing in the woods. There was a small swamp there, and I found it kind of peaceful. Even though it wasn't an amazing gem like the creek, it still felt peaceful to me. I remember feeling uncomfortable that day while walking through the woods. I didn't know why. I just had that bad feeling. I felt on edge. Every sound I heard in the woods made me tense up. I had walked these woods so many times by then, and I'd never felt like this before. So when I got to the swampy clearing and felt that moment of peace, it was just nice. I pulled out my phone to record a video. I recorded a short clip, maybe a few seconds describing the area and how I was feeling. As soon as I was done recording and taking in the area, I started making my way to the public trails. Eventually, after reaching the trails, I went to the public restrooms. As I walked out of the bathroom, a man in a black hoodie, purple hat, and sunglasses came right up to me and said, "Hey there." He said it with a lot of confidence, almost like he knew me. I said hi back politely, if not a little surprised. He made some weird joke about us almost bumping into each other, and I just laughed awkwardly and walked away. As I was walking away, I could hear him following me. I turned around, and he waved and said, "Looks like we're going to hit the same trail." I smiled, but I was getting major creep vibes from this guy. I told him I was actually waiting for someone and just stretching. He nodded, said okay, and continued walking several feet. Then he turned around again, walked back toward me, and asked if I could help him. He said his car was messed up and he needed help getting it going. He claimed he knew how, but his hands were too big, and he asked if I could use my small fingers to pop the hood. According to him, his car hood sticks, and he needs small fingers to pop it enough so he can open it. It seemed weird and sketchy to me. I commented that he just said he was taking the same path as me, and now he wants my help with his car instead. Then I doubled down on the statement that I was waiting for someone, which wasn't true. He laughed and said he was going to take that path to get to the car, even though the parking lot was in the other direction. My creep meter was overflowing at this point, and I considered just going back into the bathroom, locking the door, and calling someone to pick me up. I didn't know if this guy was just bad at talking to women and trying to get my number, or if he was an actual creep. Thankfully, a couple walked by, and I walked right up to the woman and greeted her like an old friend. She was confused at first, but she took one look at my face, and I think she realized what was going on. The creepy guy started to linger awkwardly for a second, like he was trying to see if I was bluffing. I started making small talk with the couple, even going as far as to ask how their parents were doing. A minute or so passed, and the creep started walking toward the parking lot. When he was out of earshot, I thanked the woman and her boyfriend for playing along and explained that this guy had been standing outside the bathroom waiting for me, and then wouldn't leave me alone. I know I didn't directly tell him to leave, but come on, read the room. Not to mention he was giving off major creep vibes, and me being alone in the woods, I just wasn't taking any chances. I watched the man get into a small red sedan, I believe it was a red Chevy Cruze, and drive away. The couple offered to call the police, but I told them that was okay. They stayed with me for a little while, made sure I was all right and that the purple hat man didn't come back. Then we went our separate ways. They did insist on driving me home, but I told them I was fine. I'd rather walk since I didn't live that far. I practically ran back to my house that afternoon. It was such a weird day. From that horrible feeling while hiking to the creep at the bathroom, I just couldn't wait to get home and relax with a glass of wine. Unfortunately, my relaxing night was about to shatter. I started going through the pictures in the video from that hike, and something caught my eye in the video. I played it again and my heart stopped. Just found this little clearing. So, probably gonna head back to the bathroom here in a minute and head home. In the background of the video, just in the tree line, was the man with the purple hat. While I was talking, giving my hike update, you could see his purple hat and black hoodie just over my shoulder. It was the same man from outside the bathroom. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should call the police or not. I started freaking out thinking about the man. How long had he been following me? Did he know where I lived? But most terrifying to me was that I had no idea what he intended to do. He clearly tried to follow me back into the woods. And when I stopped, he wanted me to go to his car, the same car that was supposedly broken, even though he got right in and drove away. Once I started putting the pieces together, I called the police department and reported everything. The police searched the area and conducted a little investigation. But as far as I know, they never caught the guy. I never hiked alone after that, and I moved away about a year after this happened. I hate that I don't even know that couple's name, because they honestly probably saved my life. Be careful out there, my friends, because you never know who's lurking just behind you, waiting for the perfect moment. Thankfully, that purple hat guy never got his moment, and I hope he never does. I found the video from that day and attached it to the story. On its own, the video may seem harmless, but once you know all the details, this short clip becomes a nightmare. Story 2. So, this is probably the wildest thing that's ever happened to me. And to make it even more insane, I can't believe I actually caught it on video. Let me set the stage. My friend Ron and his wife Tina had just bought this new house. This was probably like 4 years ago, I think. At first, everything seemed amazing for them. A nice little house in a safe and quiet neighborhood. A few months after moving in, I met up with Ron for some drinks and asked him how the new house was treating him. He started acting a little weird. When I kept pressing him about the house, he finally caved and told me what was bothering him. He and Tina were convinced the house was haunted. I can be kind of a jerk sometimes, and I started laughing as soon as he told me. I asked him why he thought his house was haunted, and then he gave me the whole story. For starters, apparently someone did die in the house. Something the real estate agent did disclose before they bought it. So this wasn't a surprise, and it's actually what made the house cheaper for them to purchase. Because of that little bit of information, Ron and Tina had convinced themselves that the ghost of that dead person was haunting their house. I'm not a believer in ghosts or anything else paranormal. It's just not my thing. I'm not a horror or true crime fan. That's probably why I always dismiss people when they start talking about spirits or anything like that. I started pressing Ron a little more. I said to him that just because someone died in the house doesn't mean it's haunted. He continued giving me more of the story. He told me that every night, he and Tina wake up at some random hour. There are strange noises that seem to come from everywhere in the house. He insisted it wasn't just the pipes or the house settling. He said it was like something bumping into furniture and moving around. They would wake up in the morning and furniture would be slightly moved. Things that were on the counter would be misplaced or gone completely. Ron said that on one occasion. He left his favorite Miami Dolphins coffee mug on the counter, and in the morning it was gone. They searched everywhere in the kitchen, and it was just gone. Ron claimed he didn't think it was anything paranormal at that point. He was still just weirded out by everything, and all the strange events must have been some kind of weird coincidence. That all changed a few nights before Ron decided to tell me the story. Just like several nights before, he and Tina woke up in the middle of the night. It sounded like a crash coming from the basement. Wanting answers, he went down to investigate, even though he was terrified. The basement is loaded with boxes and storage, so he said it was impossible to tell if anything had just fallen over. Apparently, while he was down in the basement, something moved in the corner of the room, and Ron ran out of there so fast and hadn't gone back since. He started calling all these strange happenings in the house paranormal activity like the movie. And just like in the movie, he was terrified that if he kept antagonizing it, things would get worse. All of this seemed ridiculous to me. I was trying not to laugh because I could clearly see that Ron was upset. I was politely trying to remind him that paranormal activity is just a movie, and you can't antagonize something that's made up. That set him off. He was well aware of how he sounded, and that was part of why he was so upset. He knew this sounded crazy, and yet he hadn't slept well in weeks. Now he was terrified to sleep in his own house. He even told me that he and Tina had slept at a hotel the last 2 nights. They didn't want to sleep in the house until they could figure out a rational solution to this absurd problem. He was practically in tears trying to explain this to me. He said it was like an extreme phobia. Ever since he went into the basement, he'd convinced himself something was down there, and he said he was physically unable to go downstairs. I still couldn't tell if Ron was pulling a prank on me or if he was serious about all this. Even as I write this, I'm shocked all over again that Ron and Tina thought their house was haunted. This just seemed so irrational to me. I was starting to feel bad for Ron. He was so upset he could barely get the words out now. Because I thought this was ridiculous, I offered to check the basement for Ron thoroughly. I told them they just needed to calm down a little and come to their senses. I said I would check every corner of the basement and make sure no ghouls were present, and that whatever noises and weirdness they were experiencing could be explained somehow. He was hesitant at first, because he thought my being there might antagonize the spirit, but I shut that down quickly. I remember Tina fighting with Ron on the phone after this, because she didn't want me to check it out. She was 100% convinced this was paranormal in nature, and that I, along with both of them, would be in trouble if I went into the basement. After the call, Ron said he would drive me to the house, but he was going to wait outside and we couldn't tell Tina. I was a little sketched out by that, but I wanted more than anything to prove to them that nothing was down in their basement. When we got to the house, Ron begged me one more time not to antagonize the spirit, just in case. I just nodded and walked into the house. Me being me, I fully intended to antagonize the imaginary ghosts to prove they don't exist. Before going into the basement, I walked around the house, and nothing seemed weird or out of the norm other than a nasty odor. And before anyone starts thinking that odor was demonic in nature or whatever, it wasn't that kind of odor. It was like body odor. Finally, I went into the basement. It was a mess, boxes everywhere. After looking around for a second, I started shouting for the ghost to appear. And just like you'd expect, there were no ghosts or any other paranormal events happening. I was about to leave, and then I decided to have a little fun at Ron's expense before leaving. I pulled out my phone and started recording a little video. I was recording in selfie mode just because I was only going to show this video to Ron as a joke. I made a comment in the video about how there aren't any ghosts. And as you can see, there's nothing but storage down here. I turned around and lifted the camera a little to show the storage over my shoulder. And as I did that, I thought I saw something weird in the corner of the screen. So I moved the camera back a little, and sitting right there was some creepy old guy. Not a ghost or demon. A sickly old man. I wish I'd continued recording, but out of instinct, I just turned it off and ran. So, I've been down here for a few minutes now, and I haven't seen any ghosts, monsters, or any paranormal activity at all. Nothing except all of your useless storage down here. Oh my God. When I got upstairs, I slammed the basement door and held it shut. I heard the old man screaming on the other side of the door. The scream was more of a painful wailing. I continued holding the door shut with one hand and called Ron with the other. When he answered, I blurted out that he needed to call the police because there was a man in his house. Not a monster or ghost, a man. While this was happening, the man made his way to the basement door and tried opening it as I held it shut. I started yelling at him, and he just kept screaming. Then the screaming turned into him repeatedly saying, "No, no, no," over and over. It probably took like 10 minutes for the police to show up, and I tried to hold the door for the entire wait. And I kid you not, this guy tried opening the door the whole time. As soon as I heard the police cars roll up, I let go of the door, and the man burst through it. I should have waited until the police were inside the house. There was a moment when I was standing face to face with this old man. He was clearly insane. His eyes looked almost plastic. He screamed in my face so loudly that it knocked me over, and then he ran out the back door of the house. I tried chasing him, but the old guy was deceivingly fast. I started yelling for the cops, who were just now jogging through the house with no urgency whatsoever. I told them the guy ran out the back door, and I didn't see which direction he went. The cops looked for a bit but couldn't find him. Ron called Tina and told her what happened. She was angry at first, but then just in shock over everything. We went into the basement to check everything out after that. The awful smell was clearly the body odor of this man. In the corner of the basement was a small pillow and a little blanket, and the smell was worst over there. Also next to the blanket was Ron's Miami Dolphins mug. I gave the cops the video, and I don't think they caught the guy, at least not to my knowledge. After all this, Ron told me that before this happened, Tina never locked the doors. She grew up in a nice neighborhood, and since this was also a nice neighborhood, she didn't think anything horrible could happen. Either one day while they were at work, or in the middle of the night while they were sleeping, this man just walked into their home. Now she checks the locks about 5 times before going to bed. It just goes to show you that no matter how nice an area you live in, if you leave the door unlocked, you'll always be inviting unwanted strangers into your house. Story 3: about a month ago, I was asked to house sit and dog sit for my boss. It was only for a few days, and his dog Max was the easiest, most chilled out dog ever. Not to mention my boss is rich and I needed the money. So this job was an easy yes to make some extra cash on the side. One thing that sucks about me is that I struggle to sleep when I'm not at home. I won't use the word insomniac, but it sometimes feels like that. I guess it could be nerves, but I don't know. I just don't sleep well when I'm not in my own bed. Being proactive and knowing I was going to stay up late, I brought over my Nintendo Switch. I decided I was finally going to play the remake of Paper Mario, The 1,000-Year Door. That was all I did almost the entire first night. The next night, I took Max outside for a late night walk a little after 10 p.m. I walked him just around the neighborhood a bit. While walking back, I thought I saw someone standing by my boss's house. I slowed down and tried to squint as best I could, but it was just too dark to tell. As I got closer, I didn't see anyone. The darkness will always play tricks on your eyes, especially when you're somewhere unfamiliar. I got back inside and started playing my game. It was about 100 a.m., and I remembered I'd left my phone charger in the car. I went outside to grab it, and a few houses down, just standing outside, was a person. They weren't doing anything objectively wrong or scary. It was just weird that someone dressed in all black was standing outside at 100 in the morning. Even if they were walking, it wouldn't have been as weird. It was only because they were just standing there that it felt strange. Ultimately, I ignored it. My thought process was that it was just someone who lived in that house, and they happened to be outside at the same time as me. Maybe they were looking at the stars. After all, I was also outside at 100 a.m. I went inside and continued playing the game for about 2 more hours. Then I shut it off and started scrolling on my phone. I thought I kept hearing this noise, and it was starting to annoy me. I couldn't tell exactly what it was, but it sounded like maybe a tree branch rubbing against the house, or even an animal. The noise was making me anxious for some reason. I think because I didn't know what it was, and I wanted to. I got off the couch and looked out the living room window. I jumped back as soon as I looked outside because a person was running away from the window. I got up and ran to the other window, but by the time I got there and looked, nobody was there. My adrenaline was pumping. I was trying to process what reason someone would have to be creeping near the house. I thought about calling the police, but I decided not to. Call me crazy, but I just didn't feel that threatened for some reason. It wasn't like the person was trying to break in through the window. They were close to it, yes, but when I looked, they were running away. I realized there's no way to say this without making myself look like an incompetent idiot for not calling someone. Even if this person wasn't trying to break in, they were still trespassing and clearly up to no good. But I'm an idiot, and I just let it go. The next day, I called my boss and told him about the weird visitor from the previous night. Believe it or not, he was even less bothered than I was. He told me that in the neighborhood behind his house, there are a bunch of houses where young teenagers live. He said they cut through his yard all the time, and one time he even caught a few of them looking into his house windows. He claimed they were harmless, but it still gave me an uneasy feeling. I didn't care if they were just kids. I wasn't trying to get spied on. That night I decided to take Max for another walk. This time it was a little later. We went at 1100 instead of 1000. When I was coming back to the house, I was looking for any signs of a person. And just like the night before, I thought I saw someone standing right by the house. Instead of slowing down, this time I sped up. As I got closer, it was definitely a person standing outside my boss's house. When I got close, I saw the person run behind the house. I brought the dog inside and then ran back outside, trying to scare whoever was messing with me. I went to the backyard and looked around with a flashlight, but I didn't see anyone. I looked all around the outside of the house for several minutes and saw nobody. This started to feel a lot like teenagers trying to mess with me. This was totally something I could see teenagers doing. I thought my boss might be right. I went back inside and made sure everything was locked. I didn't think I was in danger, but I wasn't going to take any chances. A few hours later, I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I decided to look out the front window of the house. Sure enough, someone was standing outside. Not right outside the window or anything, but under the streetlight on the grassy median across the street. I just watched the person for a few minutes. It was weird. They didn't move at all. They just stood there, looking in the direction of my boss's house. I still didn't know if this was a teenager playing a prank. If it was a joke, it was a weird one. I didn't see anyone else around, so I couldn't imagine the joke's payoff would be good. Then I made probably the single dumbest move I've ever made in my life. I went outside and started shouting at this person, trying to get some kind of reaction. Nothing crazy. I was just saying hello and asking if I could help them with something. They still didn't move. After that, I announced to them that I was going to start recording them. I just wanted my boss to believe me. That's why I decided to record. I started recording and tried to focus on the person. It was dark, so I couldn't see that well. While I was recording, with no warning, the person started charging after me. This wasn't a light jog. This person was hauling fast toward me. I started to run away. I didn't mean to stop recording, but I did. I ran back inside and locked the door. I looked out the window and didn't see anyone. I waited for 10 minutes and still saw nothing. I walked away from the door and sat in a chair in the dining room, just trying to process what had happened. I still didn't know if this was a real attack or not. While I was sitting there, the doorbell rang. I didn't move or say anything. The doorbell rang again, and I still didn't move. I heard them try to open the door once, but thankfully it was locked. After they tried the door, I heard a calm, rational voice say, "Have a good night." I didn't know what was happening here, and between the chase and this experience at the door, I was completely paralyzed. I didn't want to call the police, but eventually I did. Even with the video, the cop was confident that nothing could be done. He was a nice guy, and he promised to keep a squad car in the area for the rest of the night in case this person came back. I showed my boss the video when he returned, and he looked sick. Right away, he said that person was not one of the teenagers. He didn't know who it was or have any idea who it could be. The most likely answer is that it was just some wicked person out in the night who happened to see that I was outside one night, and for whatever reason, they decided they were going to terrorize me. So far, as of me writing this, my boss told me he hasn't had anyone show up at the house and has nothing weird to report. He even bought Ring cameras for the front and a motion camera for the back of his house, just in case. What bothers me the most is that I have no idea why this happened, and I never will. Why would someone just randomly target me? Some people I've talked to think this was just an elaborate prank, but I don't think so. Who would risk getting arrested for a prank like this? In that few-minute window of being chased and having him come to the front doorstep, I felt like my life was in real danger. Prank or not, this is something I'll never forget.